budget, you will see that from 1.3%, of GDP spend, healthcare expenditure has moved up to 2.1 in 2020. And this is not just a one-off blip. The structural shift is here to stay, even if the numbers will change. And last and finally, of all these 10 ideas, primary healthcare and pharma drug vaccine manufacturing were the two top investment themes by size for this coming decade. So I'm going to leave you with this, and you're going to shortly hear from our co-chairs, co-authors about all these 10 ideas. But I just want to thank, Capgemini, our sponsoring partner, Harvard Medical School, our knowledge partner, Traction, our data partner, for their support. Most importantly, I want to thank the Aspire team as well, and especially Neha, Prakhar, Ravi, for 15 plus months of hard work. A collaborative report like this with 30 odd contributors takes effort. And the report has many firsts, including this theme by theme, forecast until 2030, people impacted, job created. So this report, we're proud to say, is the story of impact in health. Thank you for joining us. And without further ado, Neha, let's launch straight into the findings. Back to you.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you. Well, I will request a knowledge partner of the HealthTech community, Harvard Medical School, represented by Dr. Key Park, to present a sector overview. Thereafter, the co-chairs of the HealthTech community, Ms. Visa Lakshi Chandramouli, the managing partner at Tata Capital Healthcare Fund, and Mr. Ravi Kant, the former CEO of Tata Motors, to present the findings of the report. We are missing our third co-chair today, Mr. Anant Maheshwari, president of Microsoft India, as he has to be away on a travel. But I'm glad to have the others here. And Dr. Park, over to you.
Thank you, Neha. I apologize for some background noise. I'm delighted to participate this afternoon in India, and good morning here from Boston. So a little over a year ago, I was invited to join the healthcare, medical, and health tech impact community by Amit of the Aspire Circle. And he asked me to serve as the knowledge partner, and together with the other distinguished thought leaders, we were to identify 10 investment ideas that could shift the Indian health sector towards a more impactful economy. Capitalism as we know it will be reborn as capitalism 2.0, where no one is left behind and affordable healthcare for all is a reality. Now, as a person who is dedicated to addressing the health disparities in the world, particularly among the poorest, what Amit was talking about was the holy grail in global health. Now, over the next year, the community of experts and leaders discussed in depth, I might add, and voted on the investability, the regulatory environment, and social impact aspects of each one of these ideas. I am happy to report that the community has identified 10 ideas for investment that could lead to better health, more jobs, and economic growth while providing a return on the investment. We'll hear more about each one of these ideas in a bit. We try to leverage India's comparative advantages in the healthcare sector. For example, India should take advantage of the successes in operational efficiencies as demonstrated by the low-cost heart and eye surgeries by Narayana Health and Aravind Health, and apply it in other areas where appropriate. The same goes for the incredible drug and vaccine manufacturing capabilities that lie in India. Now, while all these ideas have the potential for robust returns from an investment point of view, they are different in their potential for social impact. For example, investments in medical tourism is clearly investing in the healthcare sector. However, when seen through the lens of social impact, the health benefits are likely to be limited to those who can afford it. Poor people rarely travel overseas for medical care. Now, that being said, most of our ideas have the potential to improve the health of people in the bottom of the pyramid. Telemedicine can lower the costs for medical consultations and transportation. And investing in primary care, which focuses on preventive care, keeps the population healthier and therefore cost-effective. As they say, the devil is in the details, and how these investments get implemented will ultimately determine the extent of social impact. It has been a privilege to work with the community, and these ideas represent some of the best ways to turbocharge India's economy, while adhering to the Sustainable Development Goals, in our case, goal number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Thank you and congratulations. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you, Dr. Park. Visa Lakshi, I would like you to please take on the next slides.
Thank you, Neha, and a good evening to everybody. It's a pleasure to be part of this event, and thank you for inviting me to deliver a few thoughts on this sector, which is truly close to my heart. First of all, many congratulations to Team IFP for having worked over the last year and put together this highly impactful book of ideas, and that too with an intense collaborative effort. So I would say that 2021 and 2022 are likely to be one of the most pivotal years for the sector in terms of how this, the healthcare, pharma, health tech, and allied sectors are being shaped in the next several decades. First of all, we witnessed, I think in 2021, a record private capital deal flow of nearly about $4.5 billion. In fact, that has been the highest since the start of the last decade. And it's probably one of the most noteworthy achievements for the sector in all. In fact, the pandemic has brought to center stage the urgency that one needs to work with in terms of addressing some of the I would say, the issues that we are having with respect to the healthcare systems, with respect to the structural demand supply gaps, etc. On the one hand, as India, we are all aware, we are staring at a huge healthcare infrastructure gap. On the other hand, there is also this unique challenge, which I think is very unique to India in terms of us facing this dual challenge of both chronic as well as lifestyle diseases. So while overall we have this huge need gap, we also have significant advantages as a country, I must say. On one hand, we have this tremendous skill sets as both healthcare professionals, pharma professionals, all the healthcare allied community workers, etc. Clearly world-class skill sets in terms of the people who are there. We have a cost arbitrage. We have a huge manufacturing advantage, which has been built over the decades. And now we have a flourishing digital healthcare ecosystem. So all these are clearly advantages. And there is, I think all this will go towards bridging whatever gaps we have in the system, but it will happen in a very, very gradual way is the way. But we need to have a lot more work to be done through forums like this in order to try and brainstorm how we can accelerate to address some of these gaps. So while all of these, make the sector, all these advantages will make the sector as a compelling investment opportunity. As I mentioned, clearly, it is imperative that we think through what are the macro points that we will need in order to shape the sector in the right direction. So with that, forums like this, some of the brainstorming sessions that we had through this IFP forum have helped us prioritize these urgent themes and some of these themes that will dominate the sector in the coming decade and maybe even later, and will play a role in this enormous growth potential. Let me briefly touch upon the first 5 themes in a very, very brief manner. So first was preventive and primary healthcare. This is clearly the need of the hour. We are all aware that timely access to primary healthcare can reduce the intervention of both secondary as well as tertiary care, can reduce mortality, morbidity, etc. So this is a sector, where that needs to be addressed by all stakeholders, both private as well as the government. The second theme was the pharmaceutical and vaccine manufacturing idea. This is already a very well-established theme. Over the last few decades, India has established its dominance as the world's largest generic space. We also, as a country, about 50% of our vaccine volumes, of the world's vaccine volumes, are being provided by the country. So clearly, this sector, the growth of this sector is very pivotal for the overall industry's growth. The third theme, which relates to diagnostics, screening, testing, etc., This is clearly a very high growth theme. And the macro aspect that goes towards, I think, pivoting this theme is the fact that evidence-based diagnosis is something which has become a very standard practice in medicine. And going forward, one is likely to see more and more effort towards, I would say, high-end diagnostics, towards customized, personalized diagnostics, etc. So hence, this was chosen as, again, a pivotal theme for among the top ideas. The fourth theme related to operational efficiency and affordable healthcare. This is not just with respect to getting the treatment at the lowest cost. It is also about, I would say, how we run our hospitals in a cost-effective manner, but at the same time, not compromising on quality healthcare. And finally, the fifth theme was with respect to medical tourism. Clearly, India is attracting a large number of medical tourists, and a lot can be done in terms of paving the way for the growth of this sector. So these are the 5 themes in a synopsis. And many, many congratulations to Amit, the entire IFP team for launching this book once again. And over to you, Neha. That's all.
Thank you very much, Visa. Ravi, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Amit and Neha, both for organizing this wonderful experience for all of us, where we shortlisted 10 ideas for a period of several interactions. So I'm only going to front these 5 which you see on your screen, but I'll pick 2. One which is at the basic level, another which is at the cutting edge. The basic level is medical last 2 actually, second last, medical workforce skilling. I think India produces quite a number of doctors, but we still have woefully short of reach of healthcare. And therefore, what is happening is we need to change the whole paradigm. And we need to have, with the use of technology, we need to empower nurses, empower medical assistants, empower doctors, and therefore work as a team so that we are able to increase the productivity much more than this. Why I'm saying this is one has been attached to some of these organizations, and we feel that there is a very, very big shortage of this. Even in COVID situation, we found that we were able to get doctors and nurses, but we were woefully short of medical assistants. And all can be upgraded. The skill of medical assistant, because of technology, can be upgraded much more to do it becomes much more productive. Similarly for nurses, and of course, so that we are able to have increase the productivity of doctors to the maximum. So that is, I think, is in a way no-brainer, and we need to. India has a great opportunity. India offers a great opportunity, and we can all make it happen. And therefore, I don't think we should be waiting for somebody, but we should become the capital of skilled medical manpower in the world and provide the world with skilled manpower. A little bit we are already doing it, but I think we need to go to the next level. The second one I want to talk about is gene therapy. Now, this is the cutting edge thing. Gene therapy, as some of us will know, is a game changer. It's a game changer in the health area because, unlike other interventions, it is a cure for disease. Currently, it is available only for liquid cancers, and it is hoped that within a short period, it will become available for solid cancers, and within a decade for other diseases. However, its availability is constrained by prohibitive costs. You have to spend nearly $500,000 to $1 million per patient to get gene therapy done. So, if it is at that level, then definitely it will be out of reach for very, very large number of people. So here, I think the opportunity for India is how can we reduce the cost of gene therapy to 1/5 or 1/10 or 1/20th or even 1/100th of the current cost which is there. And I think there is a great opportunity. I know of one or two companies which are trying to do that, and US-based companies which are trying to get into this. And I think many more should come into this and really make it happen. So vaccine manufacturing is, India has become very strong in vaccine manufacturing. I think the next frontier is India can also become very strong in gene therapy manufacturing. And I think this is something which offers us a great opportunity to serve the world, not only just India. Other part is in the research for gene therapy. Now, I think as we go along, one thing which we should learn from vaccine manufacturing is, although we've become great in vaccine manufacturing, but as far as the quality of vaccine to be produced is something which we are not there. I know of some companies which are coming into this on their own, but I think we should not make the same mistake as far as gene therapy is concerned. And here is an opportunity. We can help out. We can invest in small gene therapy companies which are able to produce genes for different diseases, and thereby they become, I would say, have explosive growth. And of course, as we know, that this is a very hot area, and the valuations of gene therapy companies across the world is at a very high level. So I would end by saying that one on the basic level is skilling, and the other on leading edge gene therapy. These are two great ideas where India can become the world leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi sir. Well, and also thanks to you, Visalakshi and Dr. Park, for taking the time today to speak with all of us, and for all your time, and to the community leaders throughout the last 1 year. Our next session is an interactive dialogue with the community leaders of the health tech community at IFP. I would like to begin this section by again extending a heartfelt thanks to the journalists and the public at large for the overwhelming number of questions that we received on our website and social media platforms. We have taken several questions from those received in the last week and will engage the business leaders in an interactive dialogue shortly. I request the audience to send your questions to us, if you have any more, via the chat box or personally to me for the question and answer session that will follow immediately after the interactive dialogue. That will be the open mic. Well, the first question that I have right now is for Dr. Shikha Sharma. She's the founder and MD of NutriWell Health. Dr. Shikha, this question is on around preventive and primary healthcare for you. The primary healthcare market continues to be very fragmented due to the preference of the neighborhood doctor and apps such as Practo, etc., which have just made it all easier. Do you see any trends towards restructuring and formal consolidation of these in the market?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll begin by saying that fundamentally at the onset of COVID, what we saw was that a lot of people were interested in how do they prevent getting the infection, or how do they prevent getting a serious manifestation of the infection. Now, one thing which has really exploded in India is the need for nutrition advice, the need for home care, the need for preventive health care. So what we did in this duration is we launched an academy in which we upskilled existing nutritionists, and many other healthcare providers were already in the healthcare field but who had no idea about Vedic nutrition, into training and certifying them. Why? Because we felt that at one end was Ayurvedic doctors, at the other end was nutrition, and it was not an integrated thing. So, and what the patient needed was an integrated approach, and a lot of people needed training and upskilling. So that's what we did, and we saw a very robust growth in trainings and certifications. The second thing, what we also realized was that when we talk about a fragmented market, it is obviously the seeker, or the person who wants to seek a health coach, and the health coach, they are not visible. So we also created a platform where the seeker and the health coach can come together. So all our alumni became part of that platform. Now, why is it important is that many times when you want advisory, you also feel hesitant to ask the particular health coach or health advisor, what is your qualification, what is your certification? Because we are an Asian, we are an South Asian country, we don't feel comfortable asking somebody these questions upfront. So people need transparency of that, who's the person, what is their qualification, what is their experience, what are the reviews, and that is why these platforms are very important, because they make it easy to approach, which are verified people. Because in healthcare you cannot trust. See, I've always said that e-commerce and health commerce are completely different, and sometimes people don't get the difference. In e-commerce, you buy a shirt or you buy a mobile, you don't like it, you return it. But in health commerce, you're supposed to consume the product, you're supposed to consume the advisory, you follow the advisory, or you consume the product, and those are not refundable or returnable. So you, and plus there is a delayed, you have to wait for the results. So you have to wait a couple of weeks, or it could be a month. So that means for that whole month you are risking your entire time. So people are very careful, they don't pick products off. Like today you see a lot of platforms where you find a lot of health products on the platform, but nobody will buy health products off a platform. You need somebody to recommend. And the biggest missing piece of this whole ecosystem was health coaches. People who tell you what to buy, how to consume, when to consume, is it really for you or it's not for you. So like if I'm a product company today, I want to sell pens or I want to sell a mobile phone, I will put advertising all over and people will see the features and buy. But today if I'm a health company, I cannot start marketing my product and expect people to buy. Nobody is going to buy, because people want to know, will it suit me, in which condition should I consume it. So I think getting together these health coaches and allied workers and understanding the sensitivity and the difference in how health e-commerce works versus how e-commerce works is very important for this ecosystem. Traditionally, this ecosystem has been dominated by doctors, and now the doctors themselves have realized the need for a kind of a team which is around them. Like, for example, if you look at a doctor, the doctor may get you out of an emergency. But after that, what? After that, they need this whole ecosystem to make sure the person stays healthy. Because if the person doesn't stay healthy, the load on the tertiary healthcare again goes up. I'll give you a small example. During COVID, a simple thing like lying on your belly, which is part of yogasana, helped increase oxygen to 80%. Simple thing which can be done at home. But only people who knew could do it. And that is why digital healthcare and health information system available in the digital healthcare is very important. So what I'm trying to say is health coaches, health e-commerce, and health information, they follow a very different dynamics compared to pure product companies or product sales. And that is why aggregating platforms, digitization of healthcare, and digital healthcare are the need for the day. Because otherwise what will happen is we can never create enough physical infrastructures. And even if we create, even if it's a country with billions of dollars at its disposal, when there's an emergency, all roads get blocked. You cannot reach your destination. That's why digital healthcare is not just something I would say is a need, it's an urgent need for today.
Well, rightly said, and thank you so much, Dr. Shikha, for taking that question. I will move on to the next one, and I would like to call out Mr. Samir Wagle, the MD at Asia Pacific Healthcare Advisors. So Samir, the question for you is around pharma drug and vaccine manufacturing. These last 2 years, all eyes have been on vaccine manufacturing, which have created a few unicorns here in India. There were also over 8 IPOs over the last 2+ years, including Gland Pharma and Glenmark Life Sciences, mobilizing nearly 10,000 crore rupees INR. Post-COVID, can pharma and vaccines become India's next IT-enabled services sector and flag bearer of the Made in India initiative?
Yep. Thank you for the question. So I would say that India is already, the Indian pharma and vaccine sector is already a flag bearer for the Made in India story. Because if you look at it, India's vaccine supply is about 50% of the global supplies, and we are supplying about 40% of the US generic market, and so on and so forth. So we are already the market leader, but the flag bearer, so to say, of Make in India. But I think you're right that the trend is only going to strengthen across areas, whether it is generics, where we are traditionally strong, or newer areas like R&D, CRAMS, animal health. So I think across these subsectors, we will continue to do well. And we will ride on top of a large domestic market, which is getting much faster growth thanks to the government spending, as well as the favorable policies which we are implementing. So if you just take one example, generics, we are expecting about 240 billion of patented products to come off patent in the next 5 to 6 years. So that's a huge opportunity. Or you look at APIs, where India's exports about maybe $4 to $5 billion as compared to 22 billion by China. So even if a small shift takes place because of diversification, China plus strategy, the amounts are humongous. Likewise, if you look at Indian pharma sector, we are moving up the value chain. So the companies are spending more on R&D, getting into areas like specialty and complex generics, new chemical entities. So those are going to revolutionize the whole industry as well. And we are also seeing significant growth in areas like CRAMS, which is where there is significant competitive edge that India has, thanks to its high quality yet cost-effective scientific talent as compared to developed countries. So all in all, I think you'll have a lot of these areas, and I'm not even speaking about areas like animal health, biopharma, etc., which are there. And these are riding on a large domestic market. So unlike IT-enabled services, we have the advantage of a large home market to ride on. So that's a big benefit. And second is the favorable policies that I spoke about. So for example, the government has introduced PLI schemes, including for APIs, and there are these bulk drug parks which are being developed. So all in all, very confident that the pharma and vaccine industry is going to do extremely well and is going to become to continue being the flag bearer of the Indian Make in India story. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. Well, that makes sense. And now we will move on to my next question, which is to Keval Handa, the former MD of Pfizer India. So Keval, the question for you is on gene therapy, which is still new to India. What innovations can India expect to see in gene therapy, and what kind of investment opportunities you think will emerge?
A very good afternoon to all of you, and Amit and Neha, thank you for this great initiative and really bringing up the great 10 ideas for investments. Gene therapy is one of them, and as Ravikant rightly mentioned, it's a cutting-edge technology. Cutting-edge technology both in terms of absorbing the technology as well as in terms of getting the high returns. Now, gene therapy products have been already marketed in US. There are almost about 4 or 5 products, all in the oral segment, and we are looking at solid. But this is not going to be restricted only to cancer. It can go, for curing of any disease. So that offers a tremendous opportunity going forward on the technology of gene therapy. Having said that, just restricting myself to the oral therapy or solid therapy, it's a great opportunity. Almost about 100 such gene companies are working on new chemical entities abroad. And they, on an average, engage about 100 to 500 patients in trials. So it gives us a great opportunity for the Indian investors to get at this stage and participate in this great trial of gene therapy. But unfortunately, we haven't seen any trials happening in India. So that's a great opportunity to capture. The second great opportunity to capture is to participate in getting the product for the trials. And that is the another opportunity that one company I know called Med Therapy is looking at capturing it in India. They're setting up a plant in Gurgaon, in Delhi, and soon they would be able to set up the entire facility. So this offers a great opportunity, but capability is very critical. Do you have the capability, the knowledge, the science behind the gene therapy, the skills that are required to execute? There are these two things. Med therapy, people are based in Boston. They have people from Harvard University, and some of them have actually worked on this gene therapy, on the discovery of the drug. So they have that capability. But this capability needs to be transformed there, right now in India. So skill building becomes another great job to be done by any company who wants to invest in gene therapy. The second most important thing is the integrity and trust, because these are proprietary patents of people abroad, and they expect a huge integrity and trust so that the information or the science behind is not leaked out. So anybody wanting to invest in this area need to have a very high integrity and trust factor. The third and most important factor is the deep pockets. You need to have very strong deep pockets on this. To give you an example, if you want to do something like 1,000 to 2,000 patients or 10,000 patients, say, you may require an investment of $70 million to $100 million. So you want to have that type of staying power to invest about $70 million to $100 million in this venture. But the payouts are very huge. For example, for 1,000 patients, you can get a turnover of about 500 crores. Now, this is something you need to select where you want to play. Do we want to play in the CMOs? Do you want to play in the new chemical entities? Or do you want to play in one of the aspects in the processes of gene therapy? There are various opportunities across the value chain of gene therapy. So great opportunity for investors. And I think this will beat the fintechs of India. And it will be the new unicorns that will come up with this biotechnology in India. And I'm sure there are a few companies, Indian companies, are also working on this. But it's a long road, because one of the difficult things is to get the talent and the capability. I'm ready to take any other question or any other follow-up question. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Keval. Well, we have a question which has come live here from the Times of India. So thank you for attending us here today. And this question I would like Dr. Shuchin Bajaj to take. Dr. Shuchin Bajaj is the founder and director of Ujala Signals chain of hospitals. And Dr. Shuchin, the question that has been posed here to you is, how do you see the health sector after the COVID in tier 2 cities? Do you think the government is now more concerned about the health infra to make it strong in the rural areas? This is a question by Rima from Times of India.
So I think we were all very hopeful with the health budget this time. We were thinking that the only silver lining to COVID would be that the attention towards the poor healthcare infrastructure and the neglect that it has been put through over the last many decades would now be firmly pushed in the limelight, and you would see some focus on that. But as we also, the budget didn't speak about healthcare at all. I think there were a few pages missing from the budget speech. And in the recent study, we've seen that India is at country number 173 out of the 180 countries that they surveyed based on government preference and focus on healthcare. So the focus is clearly not there, and it will continue to not be there till the time the elections are not fought on issues like healthcare and education. The current election scenario that we see even now going on, the issues are far removed from these basic necessities. And I think it's our generation that has allowed the government to step back completely from these two focus areas. If you see the generation before us, everyone studied in government schools. Everyone was born at either government centers or through government assisted healthcare initiatives in their villages. But now we can't think of sending our children to government hospitals or government schools. Why is it that? So we need to get the focus back squarely. Unfortunately, it's not really there now, but I hope that with the current focus on some of the issues that the government is looking at, especially the high-end issues that we've spoken of, especially vaccine manufacturing, telehealth, digital consultations, gene therapies, and the focus that the groups like ours are putting on. I hope that this focus on rural infrastructure will come back, which is currently missing, I think, from the public scenario.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. In fact, in extension, if I could ask you that despite the obvious need and benefits in the country of call centers, telehealth is really still to take off. Our research suggests that it is just reaching $1 billion market size, which is minuscule for a nation like India. Do you have any thoughts on why that is?
See, we have to realize that the healthcare providers like clinics, hospitals, e-pharmacies, specialists, wearables, etc., are all multi-billion-dollar industries individually. The problem is that the ecosystem is quite fractured and everyone is working on their own issues. But by enabling access to quality healthcare with a near zero contagion risk, telehealth really took off when the pandemic struck us. In fact, when we started Project Step 1, teleconsultations was actually illegal in India. We did not have the guidelines which came in after the pandemic had come in. And now I think the potential is a lot. We currently have more than 5,300 health tech startups in the country, out of which more than 133 are funded. And we are looking at growing this to a $10 billion industry in the next 3 years with a CAGR of more than 40%. So it's not like the focus is not there. I think the fractured ecosystem and the fact that everyone worked in silos was a main barrier. It's telehealth's acceptance as a mainstream health service model requires care providers, technology providers, homegrown entrepreneurs, multinationals, and the government to come and work together responsibly to make sure that it is a social enterprise in the making and not a profiteering enterprise that many providers are looking at to make. So we need to educate the patients to access digital platforms. With the internet penetration of around 36%, I think we still have a long way to go because most of it is centered around the major cities and most providers are also looking to service the major cities. We need to make sure that the barriers in the remote area, especially language and infrastructure, are addressed properly. And I think technology has got to play a large role in it, including features like machine learning and artificial intelligence, developing algorithms and softwares to make video consultations seamless in the remote areas. So a lot needs to be done, but I think we are on the correct path. And in the next 2 to 3 years, we will see a massive improvement in the telehealth services in the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll take a little shift, of course, here and invite Rahul Agarwal, the Managing Director at Quadria Capital, around pre-diagnostics and testing. So Rahul, with COVID testing in India contributing to 20 to 25% of overall diagnostic revenues, which today is greater than $5 billion, ThyroCare's sale to Pharmacy, listing of Dr. Lal Path Labs, etc. This space is suddenly very happening. So what should one bet on here?
Thanks, Neha, for inviting me and for the question. See, the diagnostic space structurally is very well suited for investments because it's easily scalable than many other healthcare subsectors. Because here and now, more so with the advent of home sample pickups, it's very easy to reach to the customer, get the samples, and the patient doesn't need to go to a diagnostic center anymore, right? That enablement has happened over the last 2-3 years. So it's very easy to scale. It's low, it requires low capital investment, especially on the pathology side. With minimal investment or limited investment, a large business can be created. So what that means is, there are good margins and good returns on capital to be made. So investors have been looking at this space very keenly for many, many years, and it will continue this way in the future. And we now have many successfully listed companies who have scaled up. Many more have received private equity, venture capital investments. Even smaller regional or city-focused diagnostic chains have been receiving investments, and this will continue in future as well. I think one big shift which is happening is, as I mentioned earlier, the patient was required to go to a diagnostic center, for getting an imaging test or a pathology test. At least for pathology, that's no longer the case. A lot of startups who are aggregating capacity at the back end and then reaching to the customers online, capturing the customer online, and enabling test booking online and enabling home sample pickup. So this is one very big, like e-pharmacies. E-diagnostics is one big space which has come up and getting a lot of investor interest. It's still not making as much money because of high customer acquisition and high logistics costs as the routine traditional diagnostics businesses are making. But they're capturing a lot of market share from the regular diagnostic chains, the established diagnostic chains. So very interesting space. Both traditional businesses, new e-enabled businesses are getting a lot of attention from investors. It will continue to remain the same over the next few years. A lot of consolidation is happening in the space, where due to branding, investments, marketing being done by well-funded diagnostic companies, business is shifting from local labs, unorganized sector, to the organized labs, like it is happening in many other subsectors as well. So it will continue to remain a very good investment theme for the investors. As I said, both traditional businesses and e-diagnostics businesses, they will continue to get good funding from private equity funds going forward. And a lot of consolidation will happen. As you mentioned, PharmEasy acquired ThyroCare. Yeah. Many of these companies which are building integrated businesses, they will keep making acquisitions of regional diagnostic chains.
No, definitely, yes, that's true. Well, that's excellent. Thank you so much, Rahul. I will move on. We do have a question around operational efficiency and affordable healthcare, for which I would like to invite Hemant Manohar, the life sciences analytics business leader, to take on. So what do you think are the key drivers to bringing about affordable healthcare for India's large population? What models can we adopt to drive higher operational efficiency in our healthcare delivery? And may I request all of our speakers to limit to a 2-minute time, so we are able to take all the questions we have. Thank you very much. Hemant, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Neha. And at the outset, I'd like to thank Amit Bhatia for giving me the privilege to be on this panel, and for everyone on the team for such stimulating discussions. I think very valid question. And, I think broadly, I would put, 3 drivers which will help us bring about affordable healthcare for countries the size of ours. First, of course, preventive versus curative. Second is promoting awareness. And third is enhancing the reach and penetration of insurance. And as far as models are concerned, I think it is a paradigm shift from a services-based model, a pay for services, to a pay for value model. So I'll just, I'm aware of the 2-minute limit, but I'll take a few minutes to, I'll take 1.5 minutes to cover those. So I think when we talk about preventive, I think it's more about lifestyle changes, things like better nutrition, and Shikha talked about it, exercise, even sleep, better work-life balance, better and regular monitoring of lead indicators like your BP, sugar, ECG. All of these things are still very low in our country. While those of us in the cities and are still very strong advocates of all of these lead indicators, I still feel that the vast majority of Indians choose to ignore some of these proactive ways of maintaining good health. And I think we need to really raise the awareness. And it's not just an education for doctors, it is promoting awareness amongst rural India. For example, even in the cities today, when I talk to my driver or to the maids, I think the key thing that they look at is, if I go to a doctor, he must give me an injection, he must put me on a drip, and he must give me lots of medicines, right? And I think that mindset needs to change, and that mindset needs to be completely shifted through education, through awareness, through YouTube. And I must say, internet and technology underpin all of these drivers that I'm talking about. And I think we are really fortunate to live in an era where the internet and things like YouTube can completely revolutionize the way we, promote awareness, promote transparency around data, and really make the patient at the center of everything and make healthcare very much more patient-centric. So just to give an example, during COVID, I think we were forced to treat ourselves at home, and I think many of us, really took to videos of Dr. Guleria and stalwarts such as him. But a lot of us also went the other way and took to the WhatsApp University and all the misinformation that is promoted there. So I think it's very important for regulatory bodies, the government, and people like us to really step in and regulate the kind of information that is spread to the vast majority of our people, so that they can take proactive action and make sure that things are addressed and nipped in the bud. A stitch in time saves 9. And of course, on the insurance part, I think the potential for a country like ours, for the penetration and the reach to really expand is very strong. And the model that I'm advocating, a value-based model, which is outcome-based, will not only serve to bring in a lot more transparency and give a lot more data to insurance companies and payers, and thereby, step in terms of controlling the cost. But also, as that cost comes down, the vast majority of our people will benefit because the premiums will go down, and therefore the reach of insurance will go up. And I think a lot of this requires a lot of stuff in the back end in terms of the enabling infrastructure, digitizing all of the data that is there, electronic health records, medical records, patient data, prescription data, and many of the Western countries like the United States and the UK are far more advanced than us on these fronts. We just need to sort of learn best practice from them and create that infrastructure which will allow the payers and the providers to become more and more efficient. And simple things that we need to do, these really don't cost much. It's like when you have when you're diagnosed with a certain illness, I mean, the first thing that the NHS offers you is a pamphlet, is a patient pamphlet. I don't think that happens in very many care centers in India. So most people are completely dependent on a particular doctor or a physician for advice, but there is no generic guidance. And I think so I think a lot of these simple steps, and technology being the strongest enabler, can help us reach our very ambitious but achievable goal of affordable care for the vast majority of our people.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much, Hemant. Well, I have a very interesting question on medical tourism, but before I get to it, I do have to request you all for staying on for 5 more minutes, because I do have a few more questions, good ones, and I would like to take them all. Neeraj Mohan, Vikramanand, Visalakshi, Rajiv Gulati, and Shan, if you're there. I have some good questions for you from the media. But before that, I would like to call on Rajiv Gulati, the former president of Ranbaxy, for this medical tourism related question that we have. So COVID has dealt a big blow to the medical tourism. When do you think it will take off again?
Neha, it's very easy for me to say as COVID subsides, medical tourism will come back. But we must take cognizance of technological and geopolitical factors which are playing into it. And I will take some micro examples to share my point. Every hospital had large hospitals had a floor dedicated for foreign patients. Of course, that took a huge knock during COVID because the travel itself did not take place and people were unable to travel. Now, will they start coming back as COVID subsides? Sure, they will. And from Middle East and all other countries that the patients were coming to India, they will continue to do so. But let me take you some micro examples. Now, Apollo Hospital in Sarita Vihar in Delhi, and the whole market and the colony of Lajpat Nagar in Delhi is actually used to turn into a mini Afghanistan from September till March. Patients would come, and there are a lot of nursing homes, doctors that were dependent on Afghani patients for their treatment. And also, I've talked to retail pharmacies that have lost 30% of their business because the Afghani tourists are not coming again. Now, once the COVID subsides, will they start coming back? It's doubtful. That may take some time. So that is on the negative side, that things may not happen. The technological factor which we must take into account is, Dr. Shushin Vajay talked about it and other speakers also mentioned, is telemedicine. To what extent will that replace the physicians going for OPD consultation to hospitals? Because during pandemic, especially during second wave, a lot of hospitals and a lot of doctors and also private practitioners, doctors both practicing in hospital and outside hospitals, had started doing only telemedicines. I know physicians who are not going to clinics, who are not entertaining patients at all. And same thing, as I said, doctors who were attached to hospitals, that they were asking patients to contact them only through WhatsApp video, and they were prescribing medicines for COVID. Now, will that trend continue even post-COVID? That's another factor we must take into account. Now, let me take you some positive examples which are also happening, which many of you may not be aware. You know, healthcare system is broke in most countries. We talk about India and we talk about 1%, 2% of GDP. Fact remains, in every country there is a challenge. Now in UK, for example, the government pays for healthcare and patients can go and get healthcare. But for elective surgeries, there is 3 months, 4 months wait. If you want a hernia surgery, you may have to wait for 3 or 4 months. That's the situation in the UK. So what they started doing is, for dental problems and other problems, they said if you fly for 3 hours, you can go to any country and get treatment done and come back, and NHS would cover the cost of travel as well as the cost of surgery or the treatment. So many people go to France, for example, and get treated and come back, and NHS covers the treatment. Now there is an agreement signed between Prime Ministers of India and UK, where UK wants to extend this time limit from 3 hours flying to 9 hours flying. And the idea was to set up 12 hospitals of 1,000 beds each in India, which would cater to British patients and same standard of therapy, so that when the patients go back from India, they continue to get the same treatment that they would get here. 2 hospitals are already under construction, one in Nagpur and one in Amravati in Andhra Pradesh, and 10 more have been planned out. And NHS is a big investor into Indo-UK Institute of Health, and there's a fund of more than £1 billion that has gone into it. So to summarize, it may not look the same as it did before because of geopolitical or technical reasons, but medical tourism is here to stay and is going to grow big time as COVID subsides. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. Those were some great examples. Thank you very much. Well, I'll move on with my next question on medical workforce skilling. So I'll invite Vikram Anand to take this question, please. Vikram Anand represents technology, healthcare, and big data analytics. So Vikram, the question is, in 2019, India was short of 0.6 million doctors and 2 million nurses. To add to that, the country needs an additional 2.6 million healthcare support staff by the year 2030. Post-COVID, is this investable?
So, Neha, thank you, and Amit, for this opportunity, for interacting with great minds, and for being able to work around this report. And thank you for the question, Neha. Indeed, Neha, this need is critical. Let's understand that. And but health workforce build is an opportunity which is absolutely investable. And for one, the reason that it has a huge social impact in terms of supporting so many lives, and for that the need to supply to our own country and beyond is there. So for me, I see it as a huge opportunity. And as Mr. Ravikantji mentioned earlier, that if we shift our focus of seeing it from a problem to an opportunity, where we not only meet our requirement, but the requirement at a global level, it can be a huge space to kind of work upon. But to do that, it is important that India is able to create a ecosystem for healthcare education and training, and wherein the central and the state authorities need to work cohesively and collaboratively with relevant stakeholders from hospitals, from medtech institutions, edtech institutions, non-government institutions, and corporate India. And so as to do that, we need to understand that there are three key elements where there will be an investment required from India and for the concerned partners. But these three requirements have to be met. One, we need to be able to, first of all, determine as to what is our actual, where the need lies in terms of clinical, paramedic functions across various areas and departments, so that a very robust plan for training can be developed for India for the rollout to meet the respective requirements, be it in India and beyond. First, primarily India, because the need could be from medical assistants to perfusionists to various other emergencies specialists to phlebotomists. Second, it's important that we review our policy changes, because the policy changes for healthcare force workers need to be reviewed and looked at very keenly and looked at very appropriately, not only from India's perspective, but from international law standards needs to be understood. It needs to be compliant with social protection and various other healthcare protection service requirements of the labor force. So that is something which we need to do, and the changes, policy changes have to be revised to build a progressive system for tomorrow in building health workforces. And third, and lastly, and most important, that there has to be a paradigm shift from where always healthcare education would be a classroom-based education. That needs to shift towards looking at digital solutions. If we are looking at scale and the numbers of healthcare workers we need to build and develop for our country and beyond, we need to look at disruptive digital education solutions, which can then help us build that workforce. And to be able to do that, as a country, we need to build on healthcare infrastructure, IT infrastructure, adequate IT infrastructure, and the internet and the related services around that. That's it. Thank you. I hope I answered.
Thank you, Vikram. Thank you. Well, now I know we've run a little over time, so my heartfelt thanks for staying on. After this question, we will wrap up very soon. So the next question for me is from e-pharmacies. So I'll invite Neeraj Mohan, the India-headed EY partner, to take this question. So Neeraj, the question is, this market seems to be heating up, the e-pharmacy market. So just like the big retail versus Kirana stores battle, how do you expect this e-pharmacy versus the neighborhood pharmacy battle to play off?
So first of all, thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think the three specific points I want to make. First is that if you look at technology today, it is enabling solutions which were not possible earlier. There are gaps in the market, and technology continues to fill some of those. And in my view, those models are emerging, and they will continue to evolve from here. Therefore, this trend is not going to die down very soon. It will continue to gather momentum, and e-pharmacies will grow. Second part, which will elaborate on some of this, is that globally, if you see all markets, as income levels grow up, markets develop, consolidation becomes a major theme. You see the US market, there have been pharmacy chains and other big businesses, but at the same time, you also see that independent pharmacies haven't really gone out of business. So there is a big chunk of the US market today also, or reasonably large chunk of the market today, which is independent pharmacy. So it is not appropriate to assume that it is one versus the other. The only thing we need to keep an eye on is how they continue to evolve and continue to meet needs which they are uniquely suited to meeting. The third point is that India is a very large country. Today, if you look at the gap between what the need is and what the supply models are, and I'll restrict myself to just the drug portion of it, Not every need will be met by the neighborhood stores, and not every need will be met by the e-pharmacies. Likewise, you're seeing hyper-local delivery kind of models which are emerging, which even the neighborhood stores will be able to take advantage of. So what the consumer looks for is convenience. Consumer looks for value. And so long as there is a value and convenience factor playing in their favor, both will continue to evolve together. So in my view, I don't think it's an either-or situation. I think there is a space for both. I think both will continue to gain from the consumer preferences as they evolve, as income levels rise, people access more of healthcare. And of course, pharmacy business is very closely tied with the healthcare services people are going to consume in the future. So at least that's the view I would have as of today, because it's not that anybody is going out of business anytime soon because of e-pharmacies, for instance. So I would say that both will continue to be around, both will evolve, and both will coexist. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Neeraj. That was excellent. Well, Shan, are you there? We have a question here on innovative finance, and it would be wonderful if you could take it on. All right. Well, no worries then. Visa, can I ask you to very briefly answer to this one question that has come in on health insurance? This too has not seen a rocket growth expected due to COVID. How are the state and central government schemes like Ayushman Bharat affecting the market growth? Can I request you to be super brief because of the lack of time that we have?
Thanks.
Thank
Actually,
you.
I think that's not true. So we've seen, I think, a very good growth in the last 5 years in terms of the various health insurance schemes, especially both Ayushman Bharat as well as this so-called RSBY scheme. Just to put one point into perspective, in 2015, we had less than 3% of the population covered under any kind of an insurance. And today that number is somewhere close to upwards of 35%. So it's going to be gradual, but I think overall the growth in insurance penetration has been quite phenomenal. It's a different thing that the private hospitals are reluctant to sort of admit a lot of the government patients because of receivables issues, etc. But that's a different thing. That's something which needs to be sorted out. I think, with some of these roadblocks getting cleared, I think you will continue to see a good growth in the insurance schemes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Visa. And thank you all for your participation and for furthering the impact initiatives. Well, I'm delighted you could join us for this special occasion. Please download the report that was shared today, as well as those that have been launched of FinTech, EdTech, WASH, Agri-Tech, Accessibility and Disabilities on the Aspire Impact and Aspire Circle website. At the end of each report is a list of 100 startups and investors to see the momentum in each idea. Well, we are all here to serve the cause of impact leadership and an impact ecosystem development. To further the impact revolution in India, we are delighted to announce India's first impact education program, which is scheduled 2nd to the 27th of May in this year. The Impact Specialist Program is an online executive education program for the mid to senior level professionals who are passionate about social and environmental impact and looking to learn about the impact economy. The program will be delivered by Professor Dwight Hopkins, the founder director of ESG Research Initiative Center at the University of Chicago, and Mr. Amit Bhatia, the founder Aspire Impact and Aspire Circle. The Impact Specialist Program will prepare you for the imminent shift from ESG and sustainability to impact capitalism. This program teaches practical skills to design, build, scale, and manage impact, and is jointly certified by the ESGRIC, University of Chicago, and Aspire Impact. So with that, I'll end this session today with a short video on the Impact Specialist Program. Heartfelt thanks to you all for your time today, and continue the impact movement. Thank you for joining. And here's the video for you.
Since the beginning of this century, with the advent of Millennium Development Goals, triple bottom line, principles of responsible investment, and Nobel Prizes for Muhammad Yunus and Al Gore for social entrepreneurship and climate action respectively, we have seen the momentum built around a global impact movement, which will bring measurable impact alongside risk and return to the forefront of business, investment, policy, and consumption decisions.
Technology enables us to measure the impacts of companies in a granular way and to analyze their impact performance in a similar way to their profits. Some governments will mandate the publication of impact-weighted financial accounts.
Impact investing came into being, where you come up with a very clear statement, I want to make impact, and then you demonstrate how you will make an impact. And an investor who chooses you because you are doing these two things makes you an impact investor.
So yes, the crisis has made all of us shift direction.
We talked about the chief impact officer. It's the common name, but others may have chief impact engagement officers. There are ways to be trained for people who hold that C-suite office. I look forward to being there, where we will be launching this week-long training to develop leadership, particularly around chief impact officers and a whole new leadership for the 21st century.
The world needs a new cadre of impact leaders who can be Sherpas in the journey of their organizations, corporations and financial institutions, nonprofits and regulators to ensure compliance, manage ESG, sustainability and impact risks, deliver optimized, impact-weighted profits, manage organizational impact branding, innovate, be future-ready, and demonstrate highest levels of global citizenship. They must be able to design, build, scale, and manage impact. They will be the future Chief Impact Officers.
Thank you all for joining today, and you can find all of this information that we shared on our websites. So please download the reports, and if you have any other observations, thoughts or comments, we're happy to take it. The chat box is open for the next 2 minutes.